Welcome to Shooting Straight with Brad and David. I'm David Clouse, your Navajo County Sheriff, and Brad is not joining us this month. We have taken over the studio with Tan. So we have Brian Swanee, the Chief Deputy of the Sheriff's Office. We have Ernie Garcia, the Deputy Chief of Detention, and Bruce Tucker, Deputy Chief of the Law Enforcement side of the Sheriff's Office. Well, thank you all for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Being a new year, we're here to discuss what went on in 2022.
It's a busy year.
It was, and kind of what we're going to do in 2023. You know, there's a lot going on in the background in law enforcement or in law enforcement agencies that I don't think a lot of the public sees. A lot is seen in our patrols and in what people call and ask for assistance or direction, and they see that response. But there's a lot of planning and a lot of effort that goes forward into taking the agency to new levels. So we kind of every year, at the beginning of the year, we talk about that. What are some good and bad that happened this last year?
There's a lot of things going on in the jail. There's no doubt about that, and Chief Garcia takes the lead on a lot of these major programs and whatnot. And tell us about some of those programs you got going on in the jail.
Well, it's kind of an interesting year because we're at the back end of COVID, and with everything that had been shut down in 20 and 21, 22 kind of opened up the floodgates again. So we've implemented all those volunteer programs that we had in the past that we had closed up because of the COVID protocols. But so we've got a lot of volunteers that have come back after being gone a couple of years, and so we've got a lot of NAAA, a lot of religious volunteers coming in. We're working really, really hard at implementing some more substance abuse programs, getting more people to come in and assist with providing those opportunities. We have the health department who has brought in a couple of programs. We have one that works with the offenders on child care and child development, early child development, and working with them. And it's starting to get traction, and we're getting a lot of interest from the population about wanting to get into that program. One of the biggest challenges that we've had over the past couple of years has been our medical. I mean, with when you're in charge of 300 individuals on a daily basis and having to provide them with medical daily, getting the right team of healthcare professionals to work inside of a correctional environment is really, really difficult. And we've had some challenges in the past, and this past year we've brought in Wexford, who has done a phenomenal job of not just providing health services, but also recruiting and maintaining a cadre of nurses and practitioners. With them, they've also brought in a social worker who works hand in hand with our psychiatric nurse to provide mental health care, which has been one of the things that we've always kind of lacked on the backside. We've had some care, but not ever had anybody who's been on site all day long, 40 hours a week, walking around, talking with inmates and providing them with mental health.
That's probably one of the questions I get most often is, we're talking about, this group here, we'll talk about jail medical, and we know why we do it and why we have to spend so much money in that aspect. But I think a lot of the public is always, you have nurses in the jail? Why do you have nurses in the jail? Answer that question. Why do we have nurses in the jail?
Well, first of all, anybody who's arrested and brought into custody becomes our responsibility.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a clientele who generally have poor health conditions, and so they require more health needs, and they require more medical services. It's just, it's a given. They lead very hard lives, and so their bodies, pay the punishment.
That's kind of the conversation I have is, you can take a 300 person population, go pick them out of Walmart, and you're not going to need on-site medical, or pick any place. But then when you have 300 person population like we have, there's a lot of substances that are
causing poor health
that they come in on, and so there's a lot of impairment and substance abuse. And so I think our 300 man or 300 mix of population just has a higher likelihood medical problem coming up.
Definitely a higher need for medical services, which really, starts to run that costs up. It's just not just the services, but the cost of medication has become exorbitant. I mean, just for the public as well. And so when you've got that captured audience of those individuals who require more medications, the cost of those, it just becomes, exorbitant.
And then with bringing in Wexford, there's a lot of treatment that goes on right there in our facility, where we don't have to export them out to a hospital or a clinic. And that's one nice thing that I've really noticed with Wexford coming in, is they can treat many things in the medical unit in the facility that you manage. And that reduces costs as well, where we're not having ambulances going out or jail staff sitting on patients and what have you, when they're at the hospital or a clinic somewhere.
Yes, having them be able to treat a lot of those minor things in custody has really helped out with that. Also, just having those staff on hand, we're able to get ahead of the game. So when they're coming in, every individual is being screened by our medical staff from when they walk in the front door, so that they're already identified their needs and are able to get a handle on it before it becomes a problem.
Yeah. So that was a big, contract. We had a lot of work put into that, making that transition this year. CBI, Community Bridges, we went into kind of partnership with them as well. They're working on some of our reentry programs. Tell us a little bit about what CBI is doing in there.
So we've partnered with CBI, and what they do is they have on-site 2 staff who work in the jail all week long, all day long, even into the evening. And what they're doing is they're identifying those individuals who are coming into custody that have needs. What reentry coordinators do is that they look at those individuals who are in custody or that are getting released that require additional services, whether it's housing, whether it's a rehab facility, whether it's family advocacy, even counseling, drug treatment. So they're identifying those individuals who are getting close to release and have started working with them inside while they're still in custody. So as they walk out the door, those services are already connected. It gives them a greater opportunity for success when they walk out.
Kind of a streamlined process.
Yes,
right out the door.
They call it a warm handoff.
Yeah.
That's the term that's mostly used, as a warm handoff. So we're walking somebody out the door and they're already connected to those services,
right,
and not having to figure it out and
go find them later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this doesn't come on the taxpayers. This is coming through CBI.
Right.
So it's not coming out of our budget. But it's the end goal is here not to see them again, right?
Absolutely.
Them being the inmate.
Right.
Yeah.
Get them prepared to not come back. Yeah.
So also we're working on, we're going to be working on a accreditation in the jail. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, for more than a decade, every year we do an audit. We look at every system we have in place, our operational systems, everything that we do, our policies, how we manage inmates on a daily basis, and we look at them and we determine whether or not we're meeting those policies. Are we meeting the standards that we have imposed upon ourselves? And then in the early 90s, the Sheriff's Office had, in cooperation with our insurance company, which is ACIP, Arizona County Insurance Pool, brought in a program that has a web-based audit system that identifies over 620 different standards that are needed to be met, that are all by legal base, meaning that they're all derived from either a statute, a federal law, or a case law that has come out that governs how correctional systems should be run. So all our policies are governed based on those types of criteria. Instead of just being best practices where we think this is a great idea, let's do it this way. No, all our policies and all our procedures are based on either a statute that determines that we need to do this, federal law that requires us to do this, or a case law that met a standard that we have to meet.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about this. I mean, I know we've gone through these audits, and we meet all those different standards. And I feel like we weren't run an exceptionally well-run jail. But this covers anywhere from like having a first aid kit in certain locations, to the way we handcuff, to the way we transport, to the way we document different medical. I mean, it covers all aspects of detention, doesn't it?
Yes, accreditation covers floor-to-ceiling walls, everything inside the facility, even square footage of the areas. You're looking at facility lighting, the ambient temperature of the inside. You're looking at, all your medical services, your food service, everything that governs correctional settings.
Just limits our risk and liability. It's not like lawsuits don't come from detention services, do they?
No. True.
It happens.
Accreditation gives us a very solid footing when it comes to you're looking at your lawsuits, looking at how you're governing your money. I mean, the taxpayers pay for what we do, and we want to make sure that we are giving them the very best. And by having an accreditation shows that, we are actively engaged with making sure that we are running a facility that is top notch, and it's by the book, it's by policies, and it's governed based on laws and statutes.
Yeah. Well, we'll switch gears a little bit. We talked a lot of detention and talk a little bit about the law enforcement aspect of this last year. We had another great year, I think, in our response times and our major investigations. And another good thing was our retention of our employees. It seemed very, very stable, which in turn, I think you get a better product.
Yes, Sheriff, I agree.
So this next year, we're looking at starting a new program with a volunteer posse.
We are. So one of the things that we've always tried to do is be fiscally responsible. And I think this helps us serve that role. So with the idea of having the patrol posse, what they will do, which we've worked on this year and we're hoping to implement soon in 2023, is to have qualified, trained volunteers who will come out and help patrol deputies on various matters, from car accidents to calls for service when it's appropriate. When they make an arrest, they can help us transport someone to DC Garcia's facility safely, and stand by while we wait for a tow truck. Other things that will help allow the deputies become free to go back out and respond to calls for service to keep our response times low.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of larger sheriff's offices across the state have programs that ours will be similar to. We've seen a lot of growth here in Navajo County. We need to be growing, I think, with our volunteers and our deputies to match the rise in calls for service. As
the sheriff and I travel around the county, the sheriff is constantly being asked, how can I serve? How can I serve my community? And I think this is a great opportunity for people that want to support law enforcement to help support their community. This is a fantastic program.
I agree, Chief. We have such a blessed community here with people who are willing to donate their time. And if anybody's interested, I invite them to call the sheriff's office and let us know.
Right.
We'll put them through the training and get them qualified to come out with our deputies and be of that service that you're mentioning. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other good programs we've come up with and are getting ready to institute in 23 also.
Yeah.
So, Mutual Link, for example, is something that was state funded that, we were lucky enough to get, one of the few counties in the state of Arizona that were funded. Mm-hmm. That program has since proven to be successful and has received additional funding. We're expanding in Navajo County with other schools, kind of using technology. Every deputy has a cell phone issued to them. So what they will be able to do is communicate, whether they're our agency or another agency. If it's a Mutual Link agency, we'll be able to communicate as we respond to major events. If something happens in a school, there's an application that the teachers can use right on their phone that'll communicate directly with our dispatchers. Really a game changer for us when it comes to, even if it's just a medical event. I think it makes a big difference for our students in our schools.
Yeah, we were one of 4 counties that were kind of selected, or we volunteered to do that.
Pilot.
I think the key takeaway from this MutualLink is the response time or the delay in that information being shared.
Right.
Which if you do these debriefs on a lot of these critical incidents, no matter the nature of them, is the information coming from where the incident is to the dispatch center to the first responder. And this is what we're trying to
it really reduces that phone chain, if you will, of information being passed. It's direct.
Yeah.
It's direct from the school at times to the responding officer responding to the incident.
It's going to be a huge asset for us. Right. I'm looking forward to that coming on early and even maybe doing some mock testing with other agencies and the schools. I think it'll be a big thing for us. Yeah. In addition, the legislature this year passed standards regarding use of force investigations. We're going to be responsible for a team in our area for that very purpose. We're lucky we have great relationships with our other agencies in our area, our criminal investigation units, and we are working to come up with a solid protocol and how that's going to work when we respond to any incident in our region, and to do an unbiased, fair investigation into that incident and make sure that the use of force was appropriate or that it's handled appropriately. Mm-hmm. Money is coming from the legislature to help us pay for training and equipment. That's going to be a big help for us in our area.
Yeah. We were one of 6 identified in the state for that.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's a big thing for us to get that money to help us get the good training that our detectives are going to need to go into those situations and to do a good, thorough job.
Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that. I mean, that's 2 programs that I have to applaud the state legislature. Obviously very strong on public safety because they have funded those 2 things back to back in years. And Navajo County is, I think, one of the growing into one of the larger outside the state of Maricopa, right? Right. Being one of those big areas of a lot of people.
I think we see it every day driving down the Deuce of Clubs or White Mountain Boulevard. The traffic's getting heavier because people are moving here, and we need to be prepared for that.
Yeah. So this kind of goes back a couple years, but I think we're just kind of starting to see the benefits of the ARPA project, which was, remember, federal money spent in 2021, 2022. We kind of received that. We kind of sent out to bids. What are some of the way, I get this question a lot, and there's reason I bring it up. What are we doing with our ARPA dollars that were set aside for public safety here in Navajo County?
Well, again, being fiscally responsible, we looked at what was the most important thing we needed, and a lot of our deputies needed communication. And so we are using some of that funding to fund our communications, both in dispatch, our radio systems, our towers. Up on the reservation, it's kind of been a tough spot for us. With our technology partnering with a company called FirstNet, it's a subsidiary of AT&T, but it's designated for first responders. We partnered with them, and now with our radios, not only using radio signals, but it's also going to use cell signals. Mm-hmm. And we can communicate using some of the cell towers. We all use cell towers every day. That's something new for us, and we're transitioning into that in 2023.
Yeah. Brian, you probably have taken a deepest look into our system. Very old.
Yes.
What we're replacing. It's been very old. Had 4 towers, I think, for this entire county, when a county of this size should have probably upwards to 18 or something like that.
So a lot of the equipment that was on the radio towers, like you said, Sheriff, was very, very antiquated. It had been the weather had beaten it all up, and antennas had broken off of towers and whatnot. And we hired a gentleman to come in, and it was a specialist in radio repair and radio service. He's fixed all that stuff up, brought it back up to a standard, and then from there we started to grow out, and we've placed radio towers on the west side of the county, some way out on the east side of the county that just basically there was no coverage out there. And that's just your typical radio signal, as Bruce was talking about. And then switching over to having the LTE or the internet based, where seamless communication from rural parts of the county, both north and south, it just improved our radio system dramatically. And the key thing is with this project is creating an environment where all the agencies, all the first responder agencies, have common channels where we can communicate directly with them, rather than, very similar to the concept of mutual link, where it's a direct line from the school to the responding officer. Now we can talk from a Navajo County Sheriff car to a White Mountain Apache police car direct, or one of the city agencies or one of the fire agencies, without a whole lot of switching channels and whatnot. So we're going to have that capability in there, and during a major event, a wildfire, a major incident looking for a outstanding fugitive or something like that, having those common communication channels is key.
Yeah, I think it was money well spent.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, when I started with this agency, you can't talk when you leave Pine Top, going down to White River. A lot of places out east of Snowflake, you can't communicate. A lot of places around Heber Overguard, we could not communicate. And there's no cell service either. And it was just, you kind of had these deputies that were just kind of, back in...
They're in the dark.
Yeah, back in the dark. In June of 21, we had Officer Lopez, White Mountain Apache, who was shot and killed in White River. We didn't have comms going down there. Now we're going to have comms this year and in the future.
And furthermore, if that happens again, God forbid, or something like that, where we're out in a remote area, FirstNet will actually bring a tower to us that's satellite based that our radios can utilize. It's going to be a big, big difference for us.
I think it's using this LTE network really expanded our map.
Oh, huge.
Yeah. And we've taken a 1970 system, 1980 system that we've had for several years, and we've really updated to most cutting technology.
In reality, we can have a deputy vehicle or a transport vehicle that's down in Phoenix, dropping off or picking up a prisoner. Will be able to pick up the radio and talk directly to our dispatch center in Holbrook. That's unheard of. That's something that we've never been able to do at the sheriff's office, and having that reach and having that capability provides efficiency, it provides officer safety. If one of your transport deputies was having a problem with a medical emergency or something like that, anywhere in the state, they'll be able to push a button and talk back to our home frequency. So that's
Indeed.
outstanding.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, when you have this many vehicles, we got 60 deputies working patrol. We got 60 working in the jail, and they're all over this county and all over the state every day doing different duties. And now we're going to have it makes it a little easier to sleep at night, knowing where they're all at, and we have eyes watching over them. So.
And communications, even throughout a state, using that cell network.
But kind of going back to the bread and butter is just having those deputies that respond to the residents, pick up the call and dispatch. I've been really pleased with the progress we made there with our response times and our deputies, updating being the most trained and proficient in what we do.
Appreciate that, Sheriff. We've really worked hard. The deputies care, and they're doing the best they can. But I think we're getting better every day.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for another great year, and looking forward to another fantastic year. I know we say this all the time, can't believe another one's gone.
They go fast.
But 2023, 2022 was a good year. We got a lot accomplished. 23 looks like another year full of more projects and more implementation of technology. So appreciate you guys' work, but that's all the time we have this month. Stay tuned for this month's Most Wanted.
Tyler Benjamin Johnson has a valid and confirmed felony warrant for failure to appear on the original charges of aggravated DUI. Tyler's last known address was Lakeside, Arizona. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Tyler, please call Navajo County Communications Center at 928-524-4050. Or to remain anonymous, please call We Tip at 1-800-78-CRIME.